Florida State and Clemson, massive matchup. Florida State survives last week. That's putting it mildly. They're 1.5-point road favorites here at Clemson, 55.5 the total. Now, I know there's going to be some people that think, oh, Florida State, vulnerable, not the Florida State team that people are hyping them up to be. I'd calm down with that opinion. They had some injuries. Keep in mind, they had a couple key cogs out. They had multiple key players, both sides of the football, last minute, not playing in that game against Boston College. It was the mother of all bad spots, right before this game against Clemson. And, yeah, it was an ugly game. Their defense wasn't great. They struggled early in the game, especially with Castellanos. But they found a way to win. It wasn't pretty, wasn't great, and there's a lot to clean up. Norvell said it after the game, but I don't penalize Florida State too much. It's not one of those deals where, they barely beat Boston College on the road. We got to downgrade Florida State. They're not who we thought they were. No, this game is going to prove whether they're who we thought they were. Can they go to Clemson, win this game? Look, I think now, because Florida State struggled with Boston College, I actually thought Florida State would be at least a field goal favorite here prior to the BC game. But I think odds makers now see the BC struggle that they had, and now they'll just make them around a pick 'em here in this game, which is good for me because I like Florida State. I still think they're better than Clemson this year, even with the scare that they had against Boston College last week. I mean, you can make a big deal out of Clemson and Cade Klubnik and the offense looking great and the defense looking great last week against Florida Atlantic. But I also saw Florida Atlantic not move the ball at all and get beaten at home by Ohio the week before that. So let's not give Clemson too much credit, okay, for that win against Florida Atlantic. They've still got to prove it to me. If they were a mess against Duke, turnovers, mistakes, missed field goals, just imploding in the red zone, and that was against Duke. Now you've got a defense that's got NFL talent all over the board. D-line, Jared Verse and company. Linebackers, the secondary can cover downfield. On defense, Clemson's got to deal with this incredible speed and talent at receiver, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman and company. I think Florida State, that's never easy to win in Death Valley. We know that. But this is the year I firmly believe. I think it's Florida State's got the better personnel than Dabo for the first time in a long time. Certainly speed at receiver. You can't even compare these two teams. Clemson doesn't have that. Florida State does. Florida State in a competitive game, it'll be close. It'll be a good one, but I think Florida State gets the win. As long as it's less than a field goal, we're going with the Noles. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I think just throughout the week, we got to see, like you talked about in the beginning, Florida State had a couple other linemen out, a couple guys on defense. And Travis, he seems fine, but just make sure he's A-okay. And it says that he is, but I'd look at that all week just to make sure. Yeah, see, they just got caught there at Boston College. You know what? I was so disappointed how Clemson played, against Duke, and I was all over Duke. I loved it. I wish this was more than a field goal. I think Clemson's live here in this game. I just think they can hang around now that they're, a home dog. I think they'll be pumped. They'll be hyped. Also, do we get points? The total's a little bit high because Florida State games have gone over. Can we get over? I think 9 in a row, something like that, have gone over. I think there's points in this one. It's just, do we get over the total? And I still have questions with Kubnik, at quarterback for Clemson, and even their defense. I haven't seen enough out of him. Just like, I want Clemson. I'm rushing to back them, but right now I don't have anything. And this is maybe a game too that you want to bet live as well, that you don't need to get involved with, right away, just because it's a big game. We got a lot of big games here coming up. So right now I'm just off.
What scares me too about Klubnik is he only had 169 yards passing last week against Florida. Do we know if he can win a big game? Do we know?
Yeah, he didn't have to do much. He just,
Like, he's got to play it. Like, I know I've got a multi-year starter who is playing, I think, his best football of his career in Jordan Travis on one side, and I don't know what I'm going to get out of Klubnik against a really good opponent, a really good defense. We just haven't seen him in these spots very often. And we've seen a lot of mediocrity from him at quarterback late last year and so far this year. He was a turnover machine. Couldn't hang on to the football. Couldn't properly field a snap, in that Duke game, a couple of weeks ago. That's the guy I'm going to trust in this kind of game? No, I can't.
Hey, if Florida State, though, plays how they did against LSU that second half, they will go into Death Valley and win. Can we see that here in another big one?
Yeah, I lean over Silver Malco in the chat. I lean over, but I like the side more. I'm Florida State here. I'm buying. I've drank the Kool-Aid for Florida State from the beginning. I've got futures on them to win the ACC over Clemson. Obviously, if I like them before the season to win the ACC over Clemson, I'm not backing out of it now in this head-to-head game against Clemson.